I guess we need an intro. Let's go. I guess we need an intro. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Firstly, let me apologize for my voice. I realize now as I talk what I must sound like. It is the middle of June in South Africa and everyone's sick. COVID, flu, swine flu, man flu, all sorts of flus. And I managed to pick up something. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm on the mend and I'm feeling a lot better this week. Joined again, as always, by Simone. Hi, you Sim.
Hey Steve, I'm good.
Good. Thanks for coming back.
Better than you, it would seem.
No, I'm feeling good. And I think it's so funny. I think our perspective of sickness and illness these days is so warped because after COVID, you really need to be sick to like be complaining about it.
And you can handle anything now. Once you've handled COVID,
Well, I suppose that now that I say it out loud, maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe it's made some people take any excuse to be sick and go, "Oh, I've got to go home because I'm just not well." So
can't be with people.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't want to make you sick. Yeah, that's become a real thing. No, I don't know. I thank God I've never been really one to be taken out by the flu that badly. But
just don't make me sick. Right?
No, you'll be good. You'll be fine. You're strong. You've got your water bottle, your hot water bottle. So Sim, today in this episode, I wanted to discuss one of the things. I think it's a message that's kind of come through in a lot of the episodes so far, but it's one that I've lived with. It's for me, it's been a bit of a curse, but also a blessing. And it's that concept of a positive mindset, because as if you've listened to the previous two episodes, you'll know some of I call it the bullshit that I've been through in my life in terms of what at the time I thought was unfair, childhood cancer and my brother being shot and my dad getting sick and then dying a few years ago and all those sorts of wonderful things. At the time it was very much, it's so unfair. But what it did, particularly my childhood cancer, was it really gave me one of the lessons I talk about in that episode is about getting a perspective for what is a big deal and what's not such a big deal. Like when you've got cancer as a kid, all of a sudden you start looking around you at kids who have worse cancer than you and go, shit, thank God this is the only cancer that I've got. I don't have anything worse than that. Could be a lot worse. So I discovered that as I grew older and then as more shit happened in my life and all that, more bad news came from my family, that the more bad news that came, the more positive I became about it. The more of it could be worse, bro. Don't worry, this is good news. And
such an interesting mindset because I think part of it is a choice. Like you have a choice at that point.
Yeah.
To have that attitude of, wow, this is amazing, it could be so much worse, versus, oh, poor me, and play victim.
Yeah.
I think that's it's your personality, but it also is a choice.
Well, it's actually such a good point, because when you say that, I don't agree with you, and I'll tell you why. Is I don't agree with you for me, because it was just what I was taught from such a young age, having cancer, and then you just like everything bad that happened to me from then on was, oh, you got to be positive because that's what helped you get over cancer and survive that. So you got to just be positive. So for me, there was no choice. The real heroes, I think, are those people who do have a choice. I didn't have a choice. It's just how I learned to deal with shit. There's people out there who have to get up every day and put on a positive mindset. Like, I think I agree with you, there is a choice. For me, I don't think there was a choice because it's just who I was. Like you said, it's my personality. But there's people out there that have to do that every day. I think those are the real...
Yes, that if it's not natural,
yes,
if it's not your natural
way,
who
you are,
then when you get up in the morning and you put on the happy face, that's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I can't talk for them, but like you see people with one limb missing, or with like really bad mental illnesses, and I look at those people, I'm like, and they've got a positive
real.
And I'm like, dude,
but your childhood cancer was real.
Yeah, but I think my point is that I just didn't really have a choice but to be positive. I can't ever remember saying, all right, you have a choice here, be positive or be negative. Okay, let's be positive. It was just ingrained in me, I think, because it happened at a young age. I think if it happened at a later stage, I see a lot of people who get cancer at a later stage, and they have to get up every morning and go, man, I've got to be positive today because I've got kids to look after, or I've got to get to work.
And also sometimes there's no other choice. Like, you've got to see that end and be positive about it in order to get you through. Because the other side is just too devastating to deal with. So I don't think your human mind can even go there. But
well, I think you're 100% right. Is sometimes being negative is just not an option, because you won't survive. You'll literally fall over and die. And it's like, okay, I can't do that, so I'm going to just push through and be positive. Which is, when you think about human beings and our ability to remain positive.
So I think Viktor Frankl wrote that book, Man's Search for Meaning, which talks to this. And he said, I mean, in his study
it's a great. Did you get your recall? You talk about how your recall's so bad.
I can't remember what he said, but I know he said something.
No, it's a great.
And he does talk about the difference between a positive mindset and.
I should read that book again. Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to do that. Geez, I read that when I did my philosophy in university, when I was still a young idiot. Now I'm an old idiot.
Worthwhile.
I'll check it out. Yeah, very good.
When negative is not an option,
right?
And you have to. The only way to get
that's
you
actually
through.
a brilliant one. I'm going to do that. But I mean, I think for me, why I bring up the positive mindset, why I wanted to talk about it, was because for me, I'm an eternal optimist, right? And it's been like that for me forever. And it's actually, it's landed up getting me into a lot of bad situations, or not bad situations, but just, it hasn't served me so well in a lot of ways. Like, I'm very happy being the eternal optimist, because I'm an eternal optimist. That's why I have to be happy being one. But I can't complain. I'm not going to bitch and moan about my life being sad, because I was always optimistic. I've always been optimistic, and it's been great. The problems that it's brought me are that I get taken advantage of quite easily, because I'm always just so optimistic and always saying yes and all that. I've also been a terrible manager of people, because I tend to always look at the good, like, oh, they really fucked that up badly.
But shame they try.
Oh, fuck, what can I do to go in there and multiply them and get them to the next level? You know, like, where can I fill their gap for them? And, like, you know, that sort of thing. So you tend to be I mean, this is me. I'm a bad manager of people. But it also makes me very good at coaching people. Like, I'm able to talk someone up and be like, dude, pick yourself up, get out there, I believe in you, kind of thing. And it's good for them, but it's not so good for me necessarily. And it also means that I can't say no. It's also given me what I discovered in the last couple of years as I started this journey of, like, exiting a job that wasn't right for me and reforming a lot of key relationships in my life, was I discovered, and I didn't ever see this as a fault or as a problem, but I'm a savior. I have a savior complex. I like to help people, and I like to support people, and I like to make sure that I'm saving them from stuff, and which sounds amazing, and a lot of people would go, dude, what's wrong with that? The reality is that when you're like that, you tend to save other people at your own expense, and that's where the getting taken advantage of comes from, and you tend to look out for other people's interests rather than your own interests. So being eternally optimistic is not always the best thing, I discovered, which it took me to the age of 40 to basically realize, dude, maybe you should do something for yourself for a change. Maybe you should look out for your own interests and stop doing things for other people, and stop working in a business and a job that doesn't necessarily have your best interest at heart, and you're not actually that happy doing, and not following the things that you are particularly good at. Go fucking do those things, man.
So you've heard the phrase codependent.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, and he put it into context, because I said, what is the difference? Because codependency is bad.
Right.
And compromise is not necessarily all bad.
Right.
So what is the difference between being codependent and compromising? And the key difference that he told me is, codependent is when it is at the detriment of you.
Yeah, interesting.
Then you become codependent, which is very unhealthy.
Yes.
So you've got to then make the clear distinction. It's fine doing for people, and it's fine being the good guy, and it's fine taking on things at the risk, but not at the detriment of you. And when you get that feeling in your gut, like, this is not good, doesn't serve me, then you're being codependent.
Yeah, interesting. As opposed to compromising
being
and going,
the good guy.
all right, I'll be the good guy here, but it's not going to hurt me.
Yeah,
as long as it doesn't impact me negatively, I'm happy.
Yeah. So I say, Steve, will you just go past the shops for me while you're out.
Yeah.
And if you makes you late for a meeting and you start getting that knot in your stomach, like, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, then you don't do that because it's at the detriment of you.
Yeah.
Can't always be the good guy.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because it's actually a great perspective. Thank you for that, because I think it's one of the things that you've kind of labeled something that I've noticed in myself, but I've never been able to label it until now, in terms of, is this to the detriment of myself? Because over the last years, as I say, as I started to discover that I am a savior, and I was like, yeah, cool, I'm a savior.
And codependent.
So what? I'm a savior. And then as I started to discover what that actually meant for me in my life, I started to go, oh shit, okay, I've got to stop doing that. And it's been a lot of work for me to actually stop looking at opportunities that come into my life on a daily basis. Can be opening a door for someone, which is a stupid example. Of course I'll open the door for you, no problem. But you get my point. Is like little things that come into my life on a daily basis that I have to actively start going, dude, hold back, man. This is not for you.
And also, it's okay to say no.
Yeah. Which
something I'm still learning, but it's okay to say
You're
no.
also a very optimistic person as far as I'm concerned, but I don't know you internally like you know yourself.
I think I'm more a realist.
Yeah.
Than an optimist.
So it's a fantastic determination that you're a realist, I'm an optimist, because one of the reasons that a positive mindset has served me so well, and I'm not knocking it because I'm so happy with how far I've come, and I know that a lot of people really love me a lot because of my positive mindset. So
you're a ray of sunlight, Steve.
I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that I've started to realize that a positive mindset maybe sometimes isn't always the best thing for the person who has the positive mindset, in my experience. But it has helped me overcome bad news. Like when I had cancer as a kid, and then I developed for the next 5-6 years, I had this really positive mindset of like, Jesus Christ, I survived cancer. Nothing can, like, I'm just stoked to be here. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And then more bad news came, like my brother getting shot. And it was like, oh, cool. How do we deal with this? Let's get on. Let's just get on with it. How do you deal with the shit? And you just get on with it. Talking about my dad's illness, like for me, it was never bad news. It was always good news. And the example that I give, and this is why I say about talking about realist versus pessimist, pessimist versus realist versus optimist, is when I was, here's a place in my life that I really discovered how good a positive mindset can be, not just for me, but for the people around me. My dad went into hospital. He was sick for many years. Obviously, if you listen to the previous episode, you can catch up on what happened there. But he was sick for many years. And then in sort of January, February 2021, he went into hospital for a pretty normal surgery he was supposed to have. Surgery ended up going badly. Then there was COVID, and he was stuck in the hospital. And what ended up happening for about 3 to 4 months, he was in the hospital permanently. And on a daily basis, we would speak to the doctor and get the news about how he's doing. So what happened was my mom came to stay here at the house, my sister's house where I stay. And my sister and my mom would sleep upstairs in the upstairs house. I'd sleep in my place. And every morning about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, my mom would come down and she'd say to me, hey, I'm going to phone the doctor this morning. And I'm going to hear how Dad's doing. Will you phone with me? And I'll go, yeah, no problem. I'd do it with her a few times. She'd get to know the doctor. We were doing this for 2-3 months. It was a long time. So she would start doing it in the morning. And whenever she spoke to the doctor, sometimes I'd be there, sometimes I wouldn't. But whenever she'd get off the phone with the doctor, she'd put the phone down and she'd say, all right, cool. So the news is this. And it was never good news. It was always, Dad had an okay night, but his bloods are down and his FCR, FGR, whatever it's called is this. And all of these, the news is always, eventually it got a bit much for her to do the phoning. So she'd come to me and she'd say, hey, Steve, listen, do you mind phoning the doctor? I just don't feel like. And I'd be like, no problem. I'd phone the doctor and I'd speak to the doctor. And as soon as I got off the phone with the doctor, I'd be like, Jesus, Dad had a great night. He's up and eating. He's feeling really great. He's going to call her. And it really occurred to me almost after 2 or 3 days of me phoning, I started to realize whenever my mother phoned the doctor, the rest of the day, the whole family would have a shitty day because my mother had this mentality, this mindset of, oh, it's not good news. Whereas if I phoned the doctor, the rest of the day, everybody had a really positive, happy day because when I spoke to the doctor, it was always good news. It was all about the perspective. It was about seeing this ray of sunshine versus seeing the ray of the cloudy, dark rays. Exactly. And it really hit home to me about how good it was to have a positive attitude about stuff in that scenario, because I could legitimately set the tone for the rest of the day for the family. I could send my sister off to work in a happy mood if I spoke to the doctor. But if my mother spoke to the doctor, she would send my sister. She wasn't doing it intentionally. It's just how my mother saw the world. I mean, as I say, my mother and my sister are the strongest human beings that I know, with all the shit that they've had to deal with and never being the center of attention. She didn't do it intentionally, but it's all about how you see the news. Like, that's where I saw my positive mindset really come into play in a practical way to the people around me.
And had a really positive impact on everyone
well,
around
exactly. You. It's like, and the reason I bring it up is when one of the most powerful, and you'll see if you go look at the podcast before the first episode, there's actually an episode that I added there. That was, I had to, in order to create the podcast, I needed to upload something. So I uploaded this thing, and it's from a woman named Mel Robbins. People will know about Mel Robbins. She talks about, she's unbelievable. And it's a video that I saw actually during COVID. You know, we were all sitting inside in COVID. I was sitting in front of the fire one day, and I was looking at videos on YouTube, and I came across her video about the number one habit that all billionaires run every day. And it's basically a video talking about the reticular activating system. And it's essentially it's sort of a meditation thing. It's about the mindset that you put in the meditation you put onto visualizing yourself doing well at what you want to do well at. If you visualize it scientifically, as Mel always says, everything she does is backed by science. It's not hoo-ha bullshit. It's actually backed by science. If you apply the reticular activating system, this mentality of visualizing yourself doing what you need to do well, onto your thoughts, it will appear into your life. And for me, this positive mindset thing is exactly the same thing as the scenario I was talking about, my dad being sick. Is when I applied my reticular activating system, this positive mindset, onto this news, the news was always the same. The news never changed from the doctor. If the nurse, the doctor, they were always going to tell us the same thing. But the filter which was coming through the phone into whose ear it was going was going to make the difference for everyone's day that day. My mother, if it was coming through my mother's ear and through the phone to her ear and out of her mouth, it was going to set a tone. Because her reticular activating system was negative. It was one of, oh, Dad's on his way out, he's really not doing well. Whereas mine was, fuck, Dad had a great day, we're all going to live forever. And it's ridiculous, but it made a practical impact on our lives every day for 3 months. And it got us through those 3 months.
Do you think it harmed you in any way? Like, do you think you didn't face reality with your dad's illness? You didn't see it?
Yeah, it's a flipping great question, because... And I think the kind of question you just asked is a very realistic question. You're the realist and I'm the optimist. The optimist would say, no, of course it didn't harm me. Because for 3 months, or of the 3 months, 2 of those months, I took the phone calls. So for 2 of those 3 months, no, it made everyone's day great because Stephen was giving the good news.
Everyone had a great day.
Right.
You can't help your dad by having a bad day.
What difference did it make?
Yeah.
My dad was still living his reality. He was still lying in hospital, COVID. Finally, eventually he got COVID. He still died. Did it harm us? No, I think it made us better because it gave us, for those 2 months, we were positive in the world we went out. We went with a positive mindset rather than a negative mindset. So I don't think it harmed us. And if I'm honest, by the time when my father did die, I think because my mother had enjoyed 2 months of more positiveness in her life, and my sister and my brother had enjoyed more positiveness in their life, by the time he did pass, I think they were a little bit more positive. Whereas if they had enjoyed 2 months of like real just dread, like, oh my God, he had a shit night every single night.
And waiting for the news.
I think he would have, I think it helped us. But again, ask my mother my mother's not a pessimist, but she's more pessimistic. Did it harm us? My brother would probably definitely say, it would be better to just get the news, black and white. What is the news? Just tell us. I believe that filtering your stuff, and I was filtering news from the hospital to my family. We as humans filter news from the world to our brain and our being every day. We have a choice whether we filter it through a positive or a negative mindset. make it a positive mindset rather than a negative one. That's my belief. That's what served me so well in this life. And I'm having to learn how to undo that a little bit and go, not everyone or not everything, not every scenario is positive. Some things are negative and you need to learn from them. And that's what I've learned over the last 2 years. And your perspective is interesting about Frankl. So
read the book.
Yeah, I'm going to. That's very, it's a very interesting, it's a very interesting.
Like I know a couple of people that have gone through illness, and after reading the book, they've adopted that mindset and said there is no other option, but we're getting through this.
Yeah.
And it's worked. Which has served them really, really well.
Which is the ultimate. Like,
that's the power of positive thinking.
To me, that's a
You've
hero.
got to picture the end. You've got to picture.
Yeah. To me, that's an absolute hero, because there's a human being who otherwise would take the news and let it overwhelm them and beat them. But they're sitting there reading a book going, no, I'm going to get my mind tough around this, and I'm going to make a decision to be positive, and then they're positive, and then they move forward. And that's heroic. For me, it's my default. So I don't think that it's that impressive. I just think it's who I am.
It's great to be like that.
Yeah. Maybe it is.
Because you're great to be around, and I think you attract people and your energies.
Yeah, I do. Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I've discovered I can be the best in the world at, is being around people and helping and coaching and teaching them. For me, I feel heroic when I see something and I go, and I hold myself back from being overly positive and overly yes, and be more realistic. That to me is tougher. So you get my point.
Yes.
It's like for those people who are like having to read Frankl's book and go, fuck, I'm going to be tough about this. That is mentally tough, man.
And even in everyday life, because thank God not everybody gets to that level of sickness or has to deal with that. But everyday life, for the optimist, it's hard to be a realist, and vice versa.
Yeah. Like nothing bad ever happens.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's not so
I
amazing.
can learn from you.
It's tough. It's really tough because when bad stuff does happen,
it's
you
like,
sit there
how does that happen?
Yeah.
That's not meant to happen.
Bad stuff happens, you're like, what the fuck is this? This is not right.
Yeah.
It's not the way the world's meant to work.
This wasn't in the plan.
But it's, as I said, it took me to the age of 40 to start realizing, dude, the world's tough, man. A lot of bad shit happens out here, you know, and like people are going through stuff.
Happens to good people,
and
also.
not everybody sees the world the way that you see the world in terms of like this positive mindset. Some people are, and I guess one of the other things I've learned, and one of the other things that's driven it home for me a little bit is the world of mental health and being around people who are struggling with their mental health, depression, and anxiety. And
often you don't even know.
Well, I think we all have it, because thanks to COVID, I think we've all got an element of it, like a degree of it. It's on a spectrum. And I've started to appreciate that, how lucky I am to be pretty neutral in terms of my mental health. I'm not very manic. I'm not very depressed. I'm just normal. Thank God. There's people out there that are dealing with like ups and downs, dramatic on an hourly basis. And there's a lot of people out there who aren't dealing with that, but tell themselves they're dealing with that. A lot of people are self-diagnosing themselves with depression and ADD, ADHD, and DID, and all these other bullshit things. Not that those things are bullshit; they are bullshit. And I can't understand, because going back to what I said in the previous episode, everyone wants to be a victim. Being a victim is so cool because people will feel sorry for you and let you off the hook. And I'm like, to me, that's the ultimate weakness. It's the ultimate bitch that you can be. So let's just not be bitches, and let's just go out there and be realistic. Measure out your optimism and pessimism, guys. Keep it in the middle, but filter what you see through a positive mindset, I think. And it served me well. And if you ever need a pick me up, phone me. I'll pick you up.
You're the person. You're the man.
Thank you, Sue.